Hello and welcome to the Business Octopus, where we talk about all things sales, marketing, and technology. I'm Avon Collis, CRM and Marketing Automation Specialist at Relevate and all-around good guy. Today, I am joined with Michele Scherr from Michele Scherr Consulting, here to talk about how to get the most out of hybrid workers in the age of the Great Resignation. Welcome, Michele. How are you going?
Hi, Avon. How you doing? Good to see you.
Likewise. So I guess let's start. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, so I come from a background of almost 20 years in the Royal Australian Air Force. I'm a registered nurse, and I did all the do for the Royal Australian Air Force, and now I've decided to do the do for me. So we've got a bit of a history with leadership and management and command and that sort of thing, and decided that I'd give it a bit of a go in the civilian world with a bit of change management and see how different it is to in defence.
Having a very similar sort of military background, you definitely have a feel for. I think some people get caught up in what they see in the movies and they think everything's like this or that, but we're talking a very comprehensive, heavily governed organisation that has tons of compliance paperwork, tons of, literally, it's about 25 or 28,000 people, depending on what arm you're looking at. And then you're talking about moving people and equipment, and it's very, very complex. There's lots of systems, there's lots of rules. And so I think management in that sphere is very highly regarded, or should be very highly regarded from most people. And I think also we were talking about how that affects your, background around change management. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about how your experience helps with that?
Yeah, I guess so. It was probably about 2012, I started moving into areas where I was really going to have to lead change because, so working in the health area of Air Force and across the three services, we'd had a change in the health delivery model. And there was a lot of resistance and, all the normal things that you find with any sort of change. But this was a major change. And so I decided I'd do some studies on it, get ahead of the ball by having some academic knowledge behind what I was going to do, the positions I was going into. And from that, not only did I get to work at a unit level, but then because of the training I'd done and the experience I'd gained, I was the project lead for all of capability reviews, so all of Air Force, and looking at what health capability we were providing, what we needed, doing the whole gamut of what was required. And it just kind of went from there, because then I went from that project to another project to the electronic health project, and it just went from there. So it was really good experience, and just getting in with finding out what other projects were going on. So when you're looking at the stakeholders and the other projects that have some sort of input into the project that I was doing, it was amazing to find out all of the stuff that was going on.
It's interesting, for anyone listening, a unit is something around 300 to 500 people, and probably definitely in the Air Force, millions, if not billions worth of dollars of equipment. And, each person just takes about at least 6 to 12 months to train at a basic level. And a lot of the people you're working with, as you said, have been there for 20 years. So change can sometimes be a little bit difficult. I mean, we are in military supposed to be very flexible with the way we do things, and also dealing with a lot of change, problems, issues, etc. And so in terms of having change-ready behaviour, a lot of organisations don't have that. And I think, I remember when they changed it from 15 compressions to 30, I was a little perturbed. I was like, I know this, so I don't have to change it. Why does it have to change? It's the same, but it affects us all. So how have you found change in terms of, difficulty or...
One of the biggest things I've found is that the budget and time aspect of a change program really inhibits how much engagement you can do. And I was talking with someone the other day, and they were, they'd basically used a change management style approach to doing their business plan. And it was just awesome. They took, I think it was 9 months, the lady I was talking to said, eight or 9 months. And they used the approach, and they got all their stakeholders in, they've got an awesome business plan. But yeah, that's one of the things that for the commercial world, and I guess for defence as well, is that we, the budget, the timeframes all get compressed, and we forget about the effect it's having on people. And there's a bit of a suck it and see kind of attitude coming from the top down of like, it just has to be done, so get it done. So I've really niched into being that conduit between the project and the people. So the people actually have someone focusing on them full time while the other project bits and bobs are going ahead. So that's where I've kind of niched, because it's just, if you can get the people on board and you can get them moving all in the same direction, you're so much more successful. And I think there's a bit of a statistic out there that about 70% of change fails. And I'm kind of like, it's not well supported by literature, but, it's one of those old wives' tales that seems to get around. So I think focusing on people is really important.
Is that potentially because the people that do change management initiatives are not really qualified or not well practiced, or maybe they tried too much too soon, they didn't get something small to work first, or...
Potentially. I think that's a small part of it. But again, I think it links back to the timeframes that they're given and the budget that they're given, and not necessarily, it hasn't got the same profile as other areas of the business. So it becomes a bit of a poor second cousin kind of attitude of just get it done.
That's got to have an effect on morale.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think one of the things I've found throughout my experiences is when people are listened to, they're happy. You don't necessarily have to take on their opinions, their advice, what's going on, but they've been heard and they've been seen, and that makes such a difference to change.
So how would that blend in with, say, job satisfaction?
Oh, absolutely. If you're talking about job satisfaction, there's Dan Pink is an author, and I think it's a TED Talk person as well. He talks about the intrinsic motivators. And I align that very much with job satisfaction, of the 3 motivators being autonomy, mastery, and contribution. So autonomy in their job, mastery over what they're doing, and contributing to something bigger than themselves. So having that voice of contribution and having some sort of autonomy and mastery over what's happening, oh gosh, it really puts it through the roof, puts their job satisfaction through the roof.
And I think also, even just having the sense of a feeling of maybe a minute feeling of power, like even deciding where the milk sits in the fridge can be a thing that, someone had a decision, someone was listened to, someone was consulted and considered.
Absolutely.
Not everyone's consulted and considered, are they?
No, unfortunately not. And I guess my experience there is that I really, you hate missing anyone, but sometimes, it could be that they're on long service leave. It could be that, whatever happens, you might miss someone. And that's really disappointing, because they're, everyone's part of a team of some sort. And missing a team member you can really miss an essential point of view.
So in terms of job satisfaction and people doing, we were talking earlier about some workers just get given the try to say this without breaching YouTube policies, poo kicker duties, and they do the basic things that are really sort of helping anyone grow in their position. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
So we're talking about the
lower level positions, occasionally, things around like diversity and the people that are, the way that they are treated in a business as well. How does that affect change management?
Well, I don't think it actually matters whether you're the cleaner or the CEO or any job in between. If you're part of a business, then you're part of the team. Everyone has an essential role in what you're doing. So keeping the area clean, for example, if we want to use a cleaner as an example, keeping the area clean means that it's a healthier area for people to come to work. So some of the things that we do change. For example, say, for instance, we're looking at workflows, and so we change an office around. That has an impact on the cleaner because the cleaner would have had a routine. So it's, while it may only be a small impact on another person, on someone, at the lower level, it may actually change their work processes quite a lot. So it's it's about all of those stakeholders.
And one of the things we were talking about also was women in business and whether or not they feel valued and contributed, or at least in terms of job satisfaction, having somewhere to scale to or grow to, or have their job expand in some way.
Yeah, one of the things that always seems to happen. Well, I shouldn't use those totality. I shouldn't use the totality terms, but something that frequently happens is women tend to take on, just the little roles and jobs that they do best, like organising parties and bringing in food and morning teas and all of that sort of thing. But none of that, well, generally, they're not the roles or the tasks that are going to get them noticed in terms of work. And it takes away from their time at work. So others that aren't doing those tasks are getting their work noticed. So it becomes one of those things where, women you can have it all, but you just can't have it all at once. And women in general are trying to do so much. It just becomes extra tasks that don't get you noticed, and they won't get you promoted.
Or don't get noticed for the things that are the big goals, the big things that people they do notice.
Correct, yeah.
So would it be fair just to say no?
Well, that's something we've got to exercise, isn't it? I think all round it's something that needs to be exercised, those boundaries. Again, in general, women are pretty bad at putting in boundaries. They just tend to say yes, oh, yes, I'll do it, yes. Or, yes, okay, I'll do it. But they're still saying yes.
We make the sort of technology and things accessible to everyone, and we're trying to have many faces, and that was one of the reasons why we wanted to have this chat with you today. And I think that since the hybrid work technology has enabled hybrid work, but then of course it takes work into the home, as everyone can see. So making it a little bit harder to get away from other similar sorts of issues that we're talking about very much in the workplace around organising this. Now we're at home, now we've got to organise food and the laundry, and I do a lot of that as well. So it's not as though it's just women, it's everybody now. We're blending a lot of stuff. We're working at 8 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night to offset something that we had to do in the day. So how does that come into change management and life?
Well, one of the things that I'm really strong on is identifying boundaries, identifying what you will tolerate and what you won't tolerate. And working from home has certainly brought out some different issues. And the hybrid working in itself is something that I've always been a fan of. For some people it works, for other people it doesn't. For some people actually need that contact in the office. They need that face-to-face interaction to keep them focused and keep the ideas ticking over and that sort of thing. Whereas for other people, having that time at home, they can really hone in, focus on what they need to get done without the distractions of an office.
Yeah.
But then you have the home distractions. So it's a test and adjust, as we say in the military. You test and adjust your plan until you get what works for you. But yeah, I'm really big on recommending boundaries and getting people to work through what works for them and what works for them and what works for the business. So, for a customer service position, for example, that it works for me to work from, 5 till midnight, 5 p.m. till midnight, but your opening hours are 8 till 5. That's not great. So, trying to find a fit between what suits the employee or what's great for the employee and what still fulfills the tasks or the roles for the business. That's something that I focus on as well.
So how can leaders fix the problem?
I think the biggest thing leaders can do at this point, there's a few things. Number one, normal as we know it is never coming back. Or normal as we knew it, it's never coming back. Don't expect it to. Number two, we're looking at the Great Resignation. Look at the reasons behind why people are going and what they're asking for. Look at the moment or this point in time as an opportunity. How can we do this better rather than I just need everyone to come back to work? How can we do this better? How can we get more out of our people? Get to know your people, get to know what drives them. I used the example before, if you've got a champion swimmer who you want to keep being a champion, you're not going to tell them that they have to practice their darts game because that's got nothing to do with swimming. So you want them to focus on their strengths and you want them to amplify their strengths. So get to know them, get to know what really drives them and work with that. So I think, that relationship communication is a huge part.
You mentioned that an objective of getting people back in the office. A lot of times people need to think about what's driving that. Is it just because they're paying for it, they may as well use it? Or is it, we want to see that you're working. Change not only for the end user, I guess technology and change is an extremely human experience. You've got people that are affected by all sorts of personal level things or work level things, as we discussed. So if you're listening to this, thank you for coming along, Michele. It's been great having. And if you want to find out more about Michele and the work that she does, you can check out her LinkedIn in the episode comments. Thank you for listening again to the podcast. If you have any questions of us or if you'd like to be on the show, you can go to relevate.com.au and check out the contact form. Otherwise, thank you for listening and take care.